Hello, political napalmers. It is me back for another video here on the Political Napalm YouTube channel. Today, we're going to talk about just a few things briefly. Try to keep the video relatively quick, even though there are some interesting things to talk about. So, the jury is definitely done for the day in the Donald Trump hush money trial that is occurring in New York. MAGA is flipping out the last few days over here about how that trial is going because of a lot of misinterpretation of what is being said. I mean, you had the right wing spin machine going crazy on places like Twitter and social media going, I don't even know what the crime is. I don't what are the charges? What is so illegal? What was it that he did? And that is actually taking their cue from Trump, who has said, I don't even know what I've been charged with, which is absolutely ridiculous. He knows what he's been charged with. And these people that are parroting that on social media are just simply getting their marching orders, whether they know it or not, straight from the orange horse's mouth. The other thing that they are freaking out about is the fact that the prosecution went last in the closing arguments. That is actually how trials work in New York. That is a known thing. But because Trump decided to be like, no, I don't get what's going on over here. Why is the prosecution last? MAGA in the social media sphere is parroting that and saying, oh, they're just making things up as they go along and blah, blah, blah. No, they're not. Look at New York law. The next thing that they're freaking out about is that, Judge Juan Merchan has said you don't have to be unanimous, and then they're cutting it off right there, and they're doing their outrage, or what I like to call faux rage, because it's fake, it's false. That is not exactly what Judge Merchan said. He said that you have to convict Trump completely unanimously. However, you do not need to 100% agree on the subcharges of what makes it illegal. Whether he's guilty or not comes down to 12 people saying he is or he isn't. However, the sub reasons for why you are getting there do not have to be unanimous. That's what is actually being said. So, of course, MAGA's flipping out about that. And now what is happening is that after they were in deliberation, they hit the buzzer, which tells the judge the jury has a question. And the jury had 4 questions. And that was about Pecker's testimony about his phone conversation with Trump in June of 2016, his testimony about not finalizing the payment to AMI for Karen McDougal's life rights, his testimony about a August 2015 Trump Tower meeting, and Cohen's testimony about the Trump Tower meeting. Mind you, to kind of sum it up, the prosecution has believed that the statements made by Stormy Daniels, Pecker, and Cohen is going to stand. They decided not to call Karen McDougal, despite the fact that she was on the docket and ready to be called and was going to testify. They chose not to include her testimony because they believe it is a strong enough case without it. And to waste the jury's time, this sort of gets them some bonus points like, hey, we've beaten this dead horse already. If we take one more bat to it, nothing's going to happen. The bones are broken. This thing has been decimated. We're not going to, wipe you out here by introducing more testimony. Of course, the flip side of that is you could maybe think that the defense would come up with some serious holes in a McDougal story. But, I mean, what hole are you going to get with her stating that she had been having an affair with Trump for 10 months willingly? What hole are you going to poke in there? It's just more proof that it was never about protecting Melania. It was about protecting the campaign. It was about taking these stories and burying them. And I actually happened to see somebody on Twitter was like, what is so different about the Hunter Biden issue and the Stormy Daniels issue? Well, the Stormy Daniels issue was effectively caught and captured top to bottom until after the presidential election was over. The Hunter Biden one did occur in the lead up to Biden's victory in 2020. We all knew about it. We all heard about it. We'd all seen some, thumbnails and pictures and everything. What was caught about that was the nudes were tried to be locked down so that the revenge porn statures didn't interfere with it. That's what was attempted to being taken off of social media, was the actual pornographic parts of it. We could sit here and debate whether or not it was this Russian plant and collusion, stuff like that. That is for a different video. But the fact is, most people had actually heard of at least the existence of the Hunter Biden laptop and parts of the story going to not the Genius Bar, but this Mr. Magoo guy in a mom and pop shop. And I mean, I certainly heard of a lot of the details on it, that, how long it was with him, when he decided to go rooting around on it, the Western Digital drive that he used for backup that had a serial number that shows that it was manufactured well after the backup supposedly occurred. And there's tons of holes in the story, tons of custody chain things there with Rudy and the FBI and everything. But informed people certainly knew of the Hunter Biden laptop story going into 2020. Going into 2016, though, we did not hear about the Stormy story. So this one was effective. The Hunter Biden one was not effectively kept out of the public eye, and nobody was paying for it. So there's your answer as to the difference. So that's what's going on with Trump. Really quickly, Jeff Philyaw is at it again with these bogus claims that he has a quote-unquote bestseller in books. He's been doing this a lot lately. This is not actually the case, and he's fudging a lot of the details on it. So on his Facebook, this is a screenshot of what he had up on his Facebook the other day. Countdown to Chaos, the silent federalizing of elections. The Kindle edition is the #1 new release in leadership. And then he throws this bestseller tag over here, this like best in show cow, #1 prize winning cow ribbon from some state fair in Montana. That's the ribbon he's got over here. And you can see these pictures over here of him and then him years later with Trump. And basically it looks like as his hairline goes back, the front of him goes forward. This looks essentially like the exact same blazer, the exact same shirt, almost maybe even the same pocket tie. But there is a big difference between this Jovan and that Jovan right there, that Jeff. Things don't seem to be going particularly well for Denture Dan over here, but bestseller. And he's claimed this about another book that we'll talk about. In reality, if you were signed into Amazon, which I am not here in this video on purpose, you will see that these book purchases carry points. And you can look at this yourself. The Countdown to Chaos Kindle edition does in fact say the #1 new release, and it carries a weight of 30 points. When you look at the category that it's in, it's ruled by a lot of anti-Trump books, despite the fact that there are some pro-Trump books over here. The point system is what detects where you are in the ranking of these releases. It is not a bestseller. It's just simply garnering the most points at this time in this category. So let me explain what's going on here as to why it says that. At 30 points, if 3 people buy this book, 90 points have been generated. This book over here at 10 points, if 8 people buy this, it has generated 80 points, even though 5 more people have purchased this one by the order of 8 to 3. This is still 80 points generated, where this one is 90. So this one will get ranked higher despite pulling a lower volume into purchasing it. And this one will be ranked lower despite people actually buying this book more frequently. I believe this Kindle version over here is 20 or 30. So when you look at this page, when you're signed in, you will see books of different weight. There's 30s, there's 10s, there's 15s and everything. Jovan's books, Jeff's books, due to the price, often carry high points. And this one is another one where it's carrying high points. So he can get by in the ranking by fewer people actually purchasing it and downloading the EPUB to their device. Even though these might actually push more volume, this one pushes higher points. That's what it is. He has done that in his Food Forest Bible thing. He was declaring this a #1 bestseller a couple weeks ago. We touched on it briefly in another video. Again, he's carrying high points in a small, limited category. This is not when you hear the phrase bestseller or #1 bestseller, you immediately think of things like a New York Times bestseller list, where people evaluate the book and their opinions along with the volume of the book is what goes into declaring it that way. Sort of like a Siskel and Ebert thing, a Rotten Tomatoes thing, and also the actual people volume-wise going into the theater to watch a movie. It's a blend of the critical reviews and the quantity. The way Amazon works it with these is the point system. Because his books are so ridiculously expensive, here you can see this one, it's $48. However, it is a discounted $48 based off of the original listing of $70 damn dollars. $70 for a book about self-sufficiency and food security, because, you know, these right-wingers, especially Jeff, like to push this end of the world scenario, that you need to have fallout bunkers of food and vegetables and everything like that, but then also simultaneously rail against things like fake meat, Beyond Meats and things like that. And they promote these anti-hormone meats out there and companies that don't use hormones and everything. But they forget to tell you that in the United States, food that is consumed by humans has to test completely negative for hormones, even if they were actually given it during their life. No hormones are ever actually supposed to pass through the meat that you eat into your body. So the scares of like, they're putting the COVID vaccine in the cow so that you eat the cow with the COVID vaccine, that is completely ridiculous. Plus, cooking that food would cook that stuff out. So forget about that scare tactic over there. Forget about the fact that he's trying to do this Fallout level crap. He is charging on the regular $70 for this book from a guy who has not proven to have any proficiency, any knowledge in this category. This guy bandies himself or brands himself as an election integrity expert, which comes on the heels of him saying he was a treasure hunter, which comes on the heels of saying he was an inventor, which comes on the heels of saying he was a popular person on the Net Talk show out of Dallas in the 90s, which, by the way, one of his coworkers, a guy by the name of Dave Matthews, not related to the singer, he was called Dave Matthews, the gadget guy, came from that show. He hates Jeff, despite holding a bunch of patents with Jeff, but considers Jeff to be a patent troll and hates his guts and likes to rail on him at any given point. But look at these prices over here. The Kindle version, this is an electronic version. This is an EPUB. An ebook is $40. That is completely damn ridiculous. To charge somebody $40 for an electronic version of a book from a guy that we know nothing about his gardening skills. And speaking of gardening skills, maybe that's kind of what he could use a little bit more of over here. Little more of that over here to get back to that, but all right, that's shaming a little bit. Nearly $70 for this one pre-discount and $145 for the hardcover. I'm sorry, but that is ridiculous. And his claim that it was a bestseller is completely false. Absolutely, completely false. This one, I mean, this isn't even about the book. It just says quick delivery. What kind of review is that? That's not actually a review of the content of the book. It's just a review of Amazon. So it's crazy for him to claim yet again that he has a quote unquote bestseller is not true. He's lying. He banned one of my accounts from his Facebook because I called him out on that. He hates truth, especially when the truth is incredibly inconvenient for him. He despises it. He wants to keep his MAGA base going down the little sheep chute over there. He wants them on rails, going down the chute to the outrage slaughter all the time. And when you point something out like this, like, hey, you're not actually number one because of sales, you're number one because of your points. And again, these books over here, because of their expense, were generating large amounts of points. It only has 14 reviews. I mean, and that one has 2, and the ebook has none. That's not pushing volume right there. So between Food Forest Bible and the re-release of Countdown to Chaos on the Kindle edition, claiming that he is a quote-unquote bestseller is ridiculous and is really fudging up the gears over here. It's ridiculous. It's the funny thing is when he had this screenshot and I saw it and I clicked the link, not this link down here because that one actually takes you to the ebook, but one of the other links he had takes you to the paper versions of it, and then the number one release wasn't there. I was like, when did you take the screenshot? It does not say that. A little bit of digging revealed that it was just the Kindle edition that said number one release. But bestseller does not equate to new release. It's just the point value system. So anyway, folks, let's see what happens with the Trump trial. The general guess is that on Thursday of this week, the verdict will come in. It probably will not take much longer, for better or for worse. So he is either going to be innocent or he's going to be guilty. My guess, based on the lawyer performances on both sides of this and how many times the Trump lawyers were admonished during this for doing things crazy, including one of the witnesses for the defense over there just glaring at the judge and trying to do Trump mean faces, and Juan Merchan calling him out for that. I'm pretty sure I know how this is going to go. The other possibility is, of course, a deadlock where maybe it's 11-1 or 10-2. But if a mistrial is called, the prosecution will refile. That is for sure. So I will catch every one of you guys later. Have a good end of the week.